Sunday, everyone. Depending on where you are in the world, of course. It's Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Am I ever on at 9 a.m.? And I'm over on Savory Island. And we have the lovely Louise with us today from Your Yoga Fit. And let me just fix and make sure that you've got your name tag so people can see that. And I'll get that in a minute. There we go. And she's from youryoga.fit. And we met through Doug. Thank you, Doug, from News Treason, who gave us the lovely introduction to connect and chat with you about the active meditation of yoga, so that it is not like sitting in Om. You have an opportunity to connect with the body. And Louise has a beautiful story to share. So she's in the UK. Tell us where you're from and let us know how your journey began for yoga.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. And good morning, everybody, or wherever you are in the world, afternoon, evening. I'm from New Zealand, but I'm living in the UK. And I first got into yoga by accident, a terrible accident. I was just telling Tanja before we hopped on live. I was like all kids my age at the time. I was about 22, and I was finishing my my university work. And one of my colleagues who worked in a bar, that we were all working in bars, all groups of friends were sort of working in bars in New Zealand at that time, invited me to go to this yoga class with him. And I was horrified. I grew up on a farm, not at all woo-woo. None of that was in my bag. And I thought immediately it was going to be a bunch of 50-year-old women. I called them old at that time. Of course, I'm 50 now. It doesn't seem like they're old at all. But at that stage, I thought, oh no, bunch of old women with their fingers, you know, like Om, and imagining light coming out their top chakra. And it just wasn't my cup of tea at all. However, I went. I didn't have a ready reason not to go. And I was horrified. It was hard work. It was an Iyengar yoga class. That's what I teach now. I couldn't do half of it. I was shocked by how badly aligned my body was. I could see that, you know, other people could manage the poses, and clearly they weren't outrageously difficult. They were just beginners poses, as I know now. So the alignment was, you know, simple. The movements in the joints weren't extreme. But I couldn't do half of it. And it was so hard, and I hated every minute of it. And then at the end, I just floated out of the class. I felt amazing. And my first thought was, oh no, I have to go back. I have to have this feeling again. So I was seduced from day one, very reluctantly seduced. And I've never looked back. In fact, I was saying to Tanja, if I hadn't had enough pride to keep me in the room, I've never failed at anything. I was never bad at anything at school. And in fact, ironically, I took 3 foreign languages just to get out of doing PE at school, and then find myself find myself doing Iyengar yoga, of all types of yoga, the most physical, demanding, precise form of yoga. It's also unbelievably subtle and beautifully codified, and works with all abilities. You don't have to be a super fit, able person. In fact, it has a remarkable remedial aspect to it. We can work with anybody with any kind of disabilities or difficulties, very nearly any, anyway. For some, you need special equipment, but there I was, having escaped successfully using my body particularly much. I was suddenly in an Iyengar yoga class, and the rest is history. 5 years at that stage, it was a 5-year qualification to become an Iyengar yoga teacher, and in the 4th year of training, you could begin to teach. So that was 1997. I began to teach. 1998, I became fully qualified, and yeah, I've taught full time ever since.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And so, can you explain that yoga? I won't pronounce it wrong. Iyengar?
Iyengar, Iyengar.
Okay. And so there's many types of yoga. And you just mentioned that that one is one of the more challenging. And so can you drop into that a little bit and explain that one a bit more?
Sure. So Mr. Iyengar, who's now dead, he died not very many years ago at the age of about 95, I think it was. He didn't call this type of yoga Iyengar yoga. In fact, he just called himself Iyengar, and then underneath of it on his little house in India had the words yoga teacher. So, but when Western people found out about him, and largely they found out about him because he became Yehudi Menwin's Iyengar yoga teacher. And Yehudi Menwin, of course, very famous violinist. And when Yehudi Menwin had health issues and couldn't play the violin, he sought out Mr. Iyengar because he was becoming quite famous in India. And Mr. Iyengar became his yoga teacher, and he says in the prologue to Mr. Iyengar's very famous book, Light on Yoga, Yehudi Menwin writes at the start of it and says that Mr. Iyengar was his best violin teacher, I think he calls him. But what he's really referring to is that he needed Mr. Iyengar's knowledge and Iyengar yoga itself to get the movement back in his hands. He was having nerve problems and couldn't play. So, so that was achieved. This book was written and Mr. Iyengar became well known in the West. But it was really the Western people who began to call yoga or Mr. Iyengar's way of delivering an understanding of yoga, Iyengar yoga. So in the West, it's become known as Iyengar yoga. But what it really is, or what separates it out from other forms of yoga, is a very strong emphasis on body alignment, on correct alignment of the body. And Mr. Iyengar says alignment is enlightenment. And I think what is meant by that is that when you correctly align the body, not only do you work in harmony with the way that the joints are supposed to work, the way that the limbs are supposed to move in the joints and so on, but you find all the areas of the body where there's a lack of consciousness. So, where there's tightness, there's a lack of consciousness. Where there's a restriction in movement, or where there's a dullness, where the consciousness isn't reaching. So there's weakness, for example, that is a loss of awareness in an area. So the aim of Iyengar yoga, and it was really codified and deeply studied by Mr. Iyengar, taking the Vedic texts and then learning what the different results of various poses should be and working backwards to understand how that pose should be executed if you were to get that result. And then as a result of working with so many people, he realized that most modern people, because of course he's reading ancient texts, but he's trying to deliver this to modern society, most people couldn't manage to do the poses that way. And so the addition of all these various props and things that we use came into play. So there's a whole shop load of what we call Iyengar yoga props. So they're all things like blocks and bricks and belts and back benders and all kinds of things. We'll see if we do any breath work today. You'll see I've got a little bolster and folded blanket and thing. And these are all used to help the body work in a way that allows the consciousness to move around it as it should, even when the body can't allow that of itself. So this is the kind of system that was built up, and that's one aspect of the system. But another aspect that Mr. Iyengar brought to yoga was this very complex and thorough codification of the embodiment that we are, this mind, soul, body. You've got intellectual sheaths, emotional sheath, our physical bodies, our mental body, our spiritual or etheric being, and there's a way of working within all the postures and with the whole of Iyengar yoga, which is more than just posture work. Obviously, it's breath work as well, where you touch and unify all of those aspects together. So
Beautiful.
I've even forgotten what the question is, but that's probably enough.
You answered beautifully. So like I was saying before the show that, yoga is like an active meditation. And the goal for myself and for those that we tend to work with and play with and connect with is this body, mind, and spirit. And we've been so trained to be in the mind, in the mind, in the mind, that we forget about everything else. And we're operating only from the mind, and that breaking through that construct of the mind is operating. Then we move into what there's something more. If I'm not the one speaking and I'm not the one thinking, but I'm the one observing that, then there is a consciousness and being conscious of the body, and your body, every ache, every pain is showing you, hey, hey, I need attention over here.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And when you've got so the alignment again, that brings all these little places where you're either perhaps dull and weak in an area, or maybe you're loaded and heavy in an area. And we describe it as there's a drought in one area and a flood in another. So you bring your conscious awareness, to your body through the alignment of the posture work to move the flood to where the drought is. So and if there's no consciousness in the body, we call it death. When there's little pockets of the body that don't have your consciousness sewn into them, they're a little bit dead. So really what you're doing with the posture work, bringing your conscious awareness to your body and working that way, and in a way you're subverting your mind to the needs of the body, and bringing those together, you're actually bringing life back into the body. Then add the breath into that. Now you've got body, mind, and breath, or body, mind, and spirit. I'm sure I don't need to tell anybody on this channel that spirare is the base word of inspire, and it's the base word of respiration as well. And it's breathing God into being. So literally your breath in your body is your inspiration. It's your spirit moving through your body. And when you bring those three together, it's so exciting to this is like my favorite thing. When you bring those three together, you imbue not only your mind but your body as well with the qualities of the breath. And that is so powerful. And the qualities of the breath are divine. They're unconditional. The breath is unconditional. It judges no one and nothing. It's will come into anybody. It has no judgment about who you are. It's non-resistant. You just, there it is. It's not out there saying, oh, not coming into you till you smarten your act up. It's non-resistant. It's unconditional. It's pure. It's refined. It's intelligent. It's abundant. It's every quality we could think of that we would attribute to the divine. It's just a beautiful thing, and it cleans and it restores and it balances and it aligns. And when you sit or lie, I would advise beginners to lie down, and if we have time, I can discuss why. But when you lie in a posture that invites the breath easily into the body, and you simply lightly focus your attention on that breath coming in and out of the body, you're joining your breath to your body, to your mind, and you're imbuing all of those qualities through the cellular body, through your mind. You're literally refining your own perceptive faculties to the point that it doesn't take very long before you realize, after a little bit of practice of that in the beginning you thought your breath was coming in through your nostrils and into your lungs, and then out of your lungs and out of your nostrils, and that's what it felt like. But then eventually it feels like, you might feel like you're a big set of bellows and you're being expanded out and contracted in. Or you might feel like the breath's coming right up from the base of your feet to the top of your head as you inhale, and then dispersing out from the spine as you exhale. And that's actually your That is the proof right there. Or some people just feel their whole body is beginning to tingle. That's the proof right there that the breath has acted on your perceptive faculties, and now your perceptive faculties have become so refined, they're not tuned into just the breath, they're now tuned into your whole energy body. So now you've just become
Yeah.
aware of this bigger being of yourself, which is amazing. And the benefits of that to your physical body alone, just the cortisol levels, it's essentially the endocrine system and the nervous system are huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and it's becoming more and more that people are speaking to the breath, right? And that I always liken it to, we like to call it air, but I'm like, well, it's ether, it's plasma. Does a fish
Mhm.
know it's underwater? No.
Mhm.
So there's all
Mhm.
these analogies. How does it make you feel? And I think as soon as you tap out and even close the eyes and focus on the feeling of the breath going in and out, it's like in a Fibonacci sequence, coming in the nose, going down, pushing the belly out, and then reversing that. And quite often I have people breathe just simply through the nose and out the nose in that conscious way, breathing in shorter on the in breath and longer on the out breath to calm the vagus nerve. So
Mhm.
breath itself, and now we're off the topic of yoga, but this combination of everything, it is yoga. It is the part of it.
Oh,
So
it
this
is.
is
Oh,
really,
pranayama. Yes, pranayama
yeah.
is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. So it's very much
Mhm.
part of yoga. I mean, yoga has 8 limbs, and the asana work is only one of those limbs, and pranayama or breath work is another one of those limbs. And the asana work, the posture work, prepares your focus, your mind, to be able to discipline itself to stay with the body or to stay focused on something. So that's essentially what the asanas are for. They also strengthen your nervous system. So all of the asana work, as you do more and more of it, will allow, let's say, the misalignments, the imbalances, the heavinesses to 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 be dropped away from your body gradually. So gradually your body becomes able to hold more energy without that increasing energy causing problems. Now that prepares you, because that cleans your body and strengthens your nervous system, and that then prepares you for pranayama, which can vastly increase the energy that's flowing through your system. Now, the simple pranayama practices, the simple breath work, is not at all dangerous, and it's the sort of thing that I think is just one of the most valuable tools for anybody to have in their back pocket, is just that ability to be able to find a place to just focus on their breath, sit there quiet. It doesn't matter if you're at a desk somewhere, if you're in your car, ideally if you can lie down and then the whole trunk is well open, and that I can explain at some point why that matters or why that helps. And just focus on the breath with your attention in your body, bringing those 3 elements together to just unify yourself and make all these wonderful changes come back about within your whole being. But simple breath work or very basic pranayama, and you've described one of them, shorter inhalation, longer exhalation, is one of the ujjayi pranayams.
Yeah.
The first of the ujjayis is just to observe your breath, and that's sufficient. It's interesting that people always want to go to the more advanced techniques, but I tell you, everything you need is in the basic poses and the basic breath work. You don't need anything else. But there are breathing techniques that will produce very profound Kundalini experiences and those sorts of things. But I strongly suggest people don't chase those. They're very dangerous if your body's not ready for them. And the biggest
Yeah.
benefit is in the simplest things, doing it for 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have, yeah. I think anytime you don't do anything and then you go whole hog and jump in and do like an hour's worth, the repercussions. So everything's about balance. And I
Yeah.
find it interesting too that now we've connected through Doug, who's in New Zealand, through News Treason, which is a
Mhm.
channel that many of the members here are aware of and watching. And what drew you into this? Off topic, but everyone's going to want to know. How did you end up on news treason? Tell us more about that. How did you end up in
Oh,
this realm
do you know,
of
I
truth?
can't remember how I ended up on news treason precisely. But they just emerged as a very grounded, very information rich, very logical, just a great channel. You know, they've just,
Yeah.
I mean, Dave does a fabulous job. I love his guests. I love the way he presents information. It's very thoughtful. It addresses sort of the concerns out there in the truther movement. But it's also very well researched. He's got really high quality guests and a lovely, calm way of presenting everything. And there's just no nonsense. There's no attitude. There's no avoiding people's fears, and on the other hand there's no indulging them either. It's just nice and straight, and so I love what he does, love what he delivers. And for whatever reason, back in 2017, I started cottoning on to the fact that something was happening. And then in 2020, as soon as the government
Right.
deemed it sensible to shut the economy down, I thought, here we go. And for a coronavirus, I mean, I grew up on a farm. Both my parents are vets. I know that the coronavirus is nothing to worry about, and you can't really inoculate for them. And I just thought, oh, this is crazy. This is the beginning of whatever it is that I'm kind of semi onto. And then I really dived into finding out what was going on. So
Yeah. Yeah, not alone there for sure. And then
mm,
once you know something, you can't unknow it. So your farm background was a beautiful base for you to go, yeah. So
mhm,
absolutely. And what I think is super beautiful is that in a way, it created a pause, a reset, an opportunity to go within and go, something's not right. I'm going to find out more, or I'm not following this. Oh, what am I doing in my life? Like so many people on the commute side, we were discussing this yesterday as we were hanging out with some other people. And I was like, yeah, what a beautiful thing that was to get everyone to slow down and go, what's important in my life? Right. And
mhm,
so there's two sides to all of it. And so we can focus on the negative or we can focus on what was positive about it. And the beautiful thing is the connection of people. Nobody would be sitting here listening to us, connecting around the world and
mhm,
sharing information that we feel is about consciousness, is about
mhm.
spirit, is about much more than we can perceive with these eyes. And
Yeah.
so it's quite exciting, actually. I'm really
It,
grateful in many ways.
It's really exciting, and the way I saw it all happening was it when I look at it all, I think this is a big purging. You know, to me, it was
Yes.
bringing to the consciousness of peoples. First of all, it's just the people who are ready for this understanding, whose consciousnesses are open enough to be willing to see all this terrible darkness that was hidden, but which has to be seen to be cleared, you know, to be reknown, to be reperceived, to be let go of, to be integrated, whatever words you want to use. It can't be
Yeah.
denied and healed, right? So whether COVID and all the stuff that happened and all the stuff we know about since was just something that you saw out there on the world stage and you weren't really affected by it, still the world was doing its beginning of its purging. But also a lot of people, because of the way economies were shut down and everything changed for me in my business. I lost 2/3 of my business in the second year of COVID. You know, so things, you know, challenges hit everybody. And
Yes.
you know, along with things that were already going on in my life, it really didn't make anything more, you know, any easier at all. But what a wonderful process, because one way or another, emotions, fear, in my case, there was fear and anger. I think for a lot of people, it's been a lot of those darker emotions: fear, anger, grief. For a lot of people, I haven't suffered much grief, but I've suffered the fear and the anger. those things had to come to the surface. And especially if you're a nice, aware person, it can be hard to find those, because you kind of process the surface layers, or you've rationalized them, or you find ways to sort of understand them, but that's not actually the same as feeling them and integrating them and letting them go. So that, or integrate, whatever word you want to use, but it's not the same as becoming whole with them, the healing aspect of them. And I think whether it was personal or on a world level, here we all are together going through all of this purging. And as you say, it's exciting. I know it's not easy. It's not convenient. It's not pleasant, but it's exciting because this is for a reason. We're going up here. And we're letting go of we're letting go of whatever can't come with us, which is just really wonderful.
Yeah, and it's that beautiful reminder that to what can I control and what can I do? And this movement is not about love and light. This is about bringing darkness, whether it's within you or in the collective, and it's been purging out, like you said, and transformed, transmuted, alchemized, right?
That's the word. Transmuting it. That's it. And that's done, and from my point of view, that's done by non-judgment. And again, that's another thing. That's another thing that is inherent in breath work and inherent in observation of the body. You're not judging it wrong. You're just observing. If you don't see that something's tight or misaligned, how can it change? You don't look at it and say, that's terrible. We're going to, you've got to see it to change it. And that's the beautiful thing. And so there's the non-judgment has to be there. That's crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a process too. So, we're all having our very own experience. No two are the same. And so, that non-judgment is critical because what you judge about others is affecting you. I always say to people, what happens when you get angry? Are you hurting the other person when you're mad at them and you're yelling at them? Or are you actually hurting yourself and your body and your energy? And so it can be hurtful to the other person depending on where they're at. For me, I just observe people and I'm like, oh, wow, they're really losing their shit. I wonder what's going on for them. It's like, I'm curious, right? Right? Especially as you see people driving around and in their vehicles and they're very aggressive sometimes. I'm like, oh, must be having a bad day. I just that neutrality is really cultivated, and it takes space and time and breath.
I was just going to say, if it's genuine, it takes time, because sometimes that person that cuts you off in the traffic is a gift to you because they bring up a flash of anger in you. You're sort of surprised into seeing what's inside yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. And there's a lovely little saying, and it's not mine, it's not original, but it says, love whatever you can as much as you can from wherever you are. But if you can't love it, love yourself for not being able to. And to me, that's like, isn't that just perfect? It's like the best backstop in the world. Like, if I get angry, you know what? I can't love you at the moment. I'm angry with you, but I can allow my anger and not make that wrong. I can love me. And then that's the first stage, because it's all about non-resistance. So if you can't be non-resistant to the person who cut you off in the traffic, at least be non-resistant to yourself for your own response. And then you're a little step more into non-resistance. And that it's exactly the same with the body. We use yoga in the same kind of deliberate meditative way as that kind of awareness is using life as a yoga, as a meditation, really. But in yoga, you're doing the same thing. You find the thing that's stuck and you don't judge it. You breathe, you be with it, you wait, you bring your consciousness to it. It's all that same thing, just a different way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, there's many ways. There's many ways to freedom, so to speak, right? But we're all in the driver's seat. We all have opportunity. And so Louise and I got together today to invite you next week, same time, so 9, onto a private Zoom class where we're going to limit it to 15, maybe 18 people. So if you want to sign up, it is in the show notes, but there's also I'm just going to post it out for you guys so you can click on it easily. We're asking that you register so we know that you're coming, because we only have limited spots. To be fair to Louise, if 100 people show up, it's a little more challenging to watch everyone's movement. So I would love to do.
Tanja,
Yeah.
for next week's class, if I just did a simple breathwork class, then any number of people could turn up, and because that's not going to there's not going to be any danger or anything, and then after that we can talk about a small group. But the breathwork one, really easy. I would talk everybody through why the breath is so important first, and then also why the positioning of your body is, and then we can actually just do it.
Perfect. And Patty's saying I'd be away next. There will be a recording. So we're going to focus on breath work so we can have as many people as possible. And what will this give you? So go ahead and sign up, because you'll be given the recording. And I encourage you all that once you've done this, to do it daily, to become more conscious of your breath every time you think about it. Because even for me, I'm not always on the breath, right? You go about and you're doing something external, and then, take a few deep breaths, right? The more you can remember to breathe more deeply. And as you go through this, it will become more natural. For when we slow our breath overall, we come more connected to nature, and more connected and in harmony, rather than breathing shallow and that heightened, I want to say, anxiety state. So when we slow the breath, and so that's what's beautiful about this. Do you want to explain a little bit more about this breath work as well?
What would I say about it? I think it's one of the most powerful tools anybody can have, is just a little bit of knowledge in your back pocket about what breathing consciously can do for you in a space of 5 minutes. It's all you really need, even if you're just sitting in traffic or sitting in your car before you go somewhere. Just 5 minutes of conscious breathing can make a massive difference to your nervous system, to your endocrine system. And done carefully, done deliberately, done consciously every day, just that little bit, over a period of time, you'll find that your whole nervous system and endocrine system resets permanently. And I liked what you were saying there about, this sort of idea of short breaths. When you think of somebody who's panting and they've got their mouth open, they're trying to get air, and they're like this, that's usually a sign of someone who's afraid, or they're running from something. It's a kind of a high cortisol, inner panic type state. So the actual way you breathe makes a big difference. If you're breathing through your nose, your body knows immediately you're more relaxed. It already knows that. But here's the great, fabulous thing. Your breath is so intelligent that no matter where you start from, whether you're in a panic state, even if you find you have to start breathing through your mouth, if you bring your attention to your breath and you begin to breathe, you'll gradually find that the breath works on you and everything changes. The breath knows what quality it should be for the state of mind you're in and the state of body you're in right now. It's the same in all the poses. There's a different breath or breathing for every shape your body makes, for every pose, for every asana. We don't talk about that with beginners, but it's there. And if you're aware, you can observe, oh, my breath is like this in this pose, and it's like this in this one. Clearly, it's going to be really different in a twist to what it's going to be in a seated forward bend, just for obvious reasons. But when you focus on your breath and you let the intelligence of the breath permeate you, in other words, you can put your ego on the back seat. Just let your mind be tethered to the breath in and out of your body. It will change. It will change you, and it will change itself to match your changing self, so that gradually, as Tanya's saying, it brings you into this calmer, more unified state but it does it by sort of cleverly kind of gathering the bits of you that need altering and gradually altering itself until everything comes into this lovely, coherent, smooth, and it does usually end up being very smooth and refined and penetrating, but it has its own intelligence. So sometimes it is more appropriate for a body to be breathing in a shallow way for a period of time. You just let the breath decide. But if you bring your consciousness to the breath and the consciousness and the breath to the body, let the breath be king, let the breath take over and be the boss in and out the way that it needs to be without you trying to control it. It will, its own intelligence will permeate through everything, and it's like medicine. It will bring the changes to you.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Breath is medicine. I like that. And
It
I'm
is.
just super excited. You guys, there's no charge to any of this. We desire to share this information. It is free. It doesn't cost anything. Louise is donating her time and taking the space and being willing to share her experience, because in the News Treason channel, she witnessed the elevated emotions that people, it's like a breath in itself. Some days it's very calm and other days it's whoop. And so what if you have the tools, and we support you in creating these tools more around any moment you feel heightened anxiety, you have the ability to shift your breath and relax your whole nervous system. Isn't that a beautiful thing? It's free. Your body and moving your body and breathing doesn't cost anything. But are
It
you
doesn't.
willing to, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it doesn't suppress either. You know, we were talking earlier about the need to sort of not to do that kind of spiritual bypassing of, oh no, I'm a really kind,
Yes.
friendly person. You know, your breath sometimes will bring emotion to the surface, and that's something I would mention when we come to speak about postures that you do breath work in. You know, sometimes it can bring up grief or it can bring up feelings of anxiousness, but again, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you stick with the breath, although you may need to change your position, you'll find that it still helps you process that through. And that's, again, another huge benefit. It makes the processing of emotion easier because it's non-resistant, it's rejuvenating, it's purifying, it's intelligent. So it's not going to take that and suppress it and just go like, oh no, just smooth over the nervous system. Let's just smooth over the nervous system. It's going to bring it out and bring it through and make it easier for you.
You're breathing it out of your body.
See, you are.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. No, good point. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much more to share around this. Do you want to give everyone, maybe beside the breath work I did, maybe something as a small example for today to share so that they can do something in this moment in space and time?
Oh, okay. Well, that would have to be something where most people are probably just sitting. Do you mean
Yes.
like literally doing something with the breath? I mean,
Yeah, just
honestly,
give a little sample. Yeah.
well, it's literally really just exactly what we've been talking about, just as simple as falling off a log, honestly. Wherever you're sitting, the key thing is that your spine should be erect because the trunk should be open. You know, there's a saying, isn't there, that the universe abhors a vacuum. And what you're aiming to do is to create space in the cavities of the body, three big cavities: pelvic cavity, diaphragmatic cavity, and chest cavity. So if your spine is lifted, you'll find that these three cavities open. And when a space is open, the breath is invited in, energy is invited in, and consciousness is invited in. So if you keep those three cavities nice and open and just close your eyes, rest your arms somewhere in your lap, take your attention to your breath and just quietly observe the breathing. That's all you're doing. You're not manipulating it. You're not controlling it. You're not trying to make it deeper than it is, shorter than it is, held in any way. Just let the breath be the boss. Just gently breathe in, however that is for you. And when you're ready, when your body's ready, just let it go out. Doesn't matter how it is. And often it's very shallow. It might feel quite kind of gross. You know, it's just like some people might feel they need to breathe through their mouth because their nose is all stuffed up. That's fine too. You just let the breath come in and go out. However that is. Doesn't matter how it is. Just follow it with your mind. Notice how it comes into the nostrils, and some of you might be able to perceive that when the breath comes in on the nostrils, it comes in on the inner nostrils. You can feel it along the inner part of the nostril cavity. But when you breathe out, you feel it on the outer walls of the nostril cavity. And as the breath comes in, it feels very fine right there at the opening of the nostrils. And then it goes down into the lungs. You might feel it down your throat a little bit into the lungs, and it doesn't feel quite so fine down there. Maybe you can't perceive it very well, you can't feel it, and then you breathe out. But whatever you're noticing in your body, just notice the breath coming in and out and the changes in the body or the sensations in the body. Where we can't really perceive ourselves, which is internally, and also in our energy bodies and the subtle bodies and the mental body, the emotional body and the intellectual body, and then the etheric body. We can't really feel those with our physical senses very well, but your breath can feel those. And if you rest your consciousness on the breath and just let it come in and out of you, you gradually bring your consciousness to penetrate more and more and more of your whole being. Your being is much, much bigger than your body, of course. But it doesn't matter what you feel. It doesn't matter if you don't feel things. It doesn't matter how the breath is. The exercise is simply to tether your conscious mind to your breath in your body, just for the 2 or 3 minutes. So maybe now just for one remaining minute, just breathing in, breathing out. If your mind wanders away, as Tanja was saying, it's like meditation. If your mind wanders away, no problem. Just bring it back. Bring it back to the breath. Bring it back to the body. And always after you've put your focus into something so quiet and inward, be gentle as you emerge. Gently peel your consciousness back out of your body and back into the so-called real world. And here you go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that analogy, the focus on the breath going in on the inside of the nostrils, but it comes out more on the outside of the nostrils. And so you can explore just observing your own breath and the feeling within the body. And as you said, right, the more you close your eyes and go inward, the more you can start to sense and feel that you can't see with these eyes. Yeah. And we talk a lot about the different energy bodies, and, you know, everyone's always, "Oh, I released that. I worked on that." It's an ongoing process no matter what, which is why a habit that which becomes natural once you embed it and create it within your life, it's like you can't live without it. How did I survive before this? Right? And then you're becoming more of your natural state. Nature. Nature doesn't deviate. Nature's in its natural state. Yes, there's storms and there's always different forms. It's always in movement. That is a given. Nothing is stagnant. It can't or it dies. So therefore, wouldn't it be cool to honor your body a little bit more and work with spirit in this way?
And capture the
And just
power of what everybody has. You know, it's right there for us. We jolly well do it every day. You know, we're breathing in and out every day. 5 minutes doing it just consciously, big changes over a period of time.
yeah, it's those little incremental additions. Yeah.
It is
Beautiful.
little.
And again, it's not suppressing emotions. It's allowing them to be transformed in a new way. It's giving you a tool, to work through them. Yeah. And I know a lot of people, as they go through this, are like, oh, I can't be around like a whole bunch of people or a room full of people anymore. I pick up on too much. I can't handle it. It's too much. So then the natural thing is to cocoon a bit more and work on self. And this is one of those ways. And then slowly reintroduce yourself, because we are here to enjoy these senses and to explore and not to be shut out from everyone. And so what I find now is I went through that. I went through a pull in and then, okay, I'm going to preserve myself more when I go out. And I'm just going to observe with that non-judgment and allow to be and use my breath as needed and step away when I need to and then come back in should I choose. But part of this is this human connection that people are cutting themselves off from. So being able to utilize these tools to reintegrate and explore life in a new way, you will find as you raise your vibration and send out a different frequency, you will attract more like-minded people. And so focusing on self first is really important with the breath around that. I just wanted to share that.
I agree with all of that. And one thing I'd like to add there, because I'm also a very sensitive person, is that if you're going to be a sensitive person, and I think, you know, we all are sensitive, really. A lot of us have been kind of, you know, a lot of that's been suppressed. But if you're going to wake up to your sensitivities, you have to be strong, because you cannot just be sensitive and not strong. Because the more you're aware of, the better your boundaries have to be, the more grounded you have to be, the more strong your sort of plasmic boundaries have to be. And it takes a certain type of inner strength to be a sensitive person and be able to function in the world. So anything that keeps you grounded and helps strengthen your nervous system, and breath work does both, yoga does both, are really great things.
Beautiful. Yes, absolutely beautiful addition. Yeah. So, and this part of this is the more we all adjust and honor ourselves, the easier this whole game will be, so to speak, right? It's the game of life. It's the obstacle course of life. Yeah. And we will have ups and downs. But don't you feel better than you did a year ago, 6 months ago? Aren't you a newer person? So in this offering of giving you more tools in your toolbox so that no matter what comes up, just like a good video game, you've got, what have I got in my kit to use, right? You've got tools and they don't have to cost money. You've got beautiful, beautiful tools to tap into and utilize in life. And this is one of them. And I think one of the more important ones for me personally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think you've done a great job of dragging that out of me. Thank you.
That was beautiful. No, and I told you to be organic, and then I put you on the spot with the breath. But that was perfect. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, well, just so
yeah,
you're watching, your people know, your audience knows. I mean, I was like to Tanya, I was, oh, what shall I introduce myself, or what do what shall I say? And she said, oh, well, it'll just be organic. And I thought, oh my, anyway, you did a great job of making me speak, so thank you.
it's one of my gifts is that connection, right? To hold that space and just ask the right questions. And the audience is so kind and loving. So we're so grateful for all of you to be here, and we hope to see you next week. Louise, stay on for a few minutes after we close up here because we get to chat again. And we're on at 4 p.m. today, guys. PT time, of course, Norma and I. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this breath again because I think it's important. So, yes, we'll mention it there too. So, we're so grateful for all of you coming in today. We appreciate it. And
Thank
yeah,
you,
we've got already
everybody.
people excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, much love. Enjoy your
Bye-bye.
day.
Bye.